Afternoon, guys. Ledwaba here, OHS facilitator. Today, guys, we have group activities and the book, name of the book, Occupational Health and Safety and Environment, Health and Safety Hazards, Unit 3. Looks something like this, guys. So we're going to start with our first activity. It's on page 76. It says, identify and explain measures that should be in place during evacuation process of persons with disabilities. So guys, in terms of the evacuation process of people with disabilities, we all know people with disabilities need help most of the time. So in an emergency situation, we're going to need to be all hands on to deal with it. And here I'm on page 75. It says evacuation of people with disabilities. In the event of emergencies, evacuation, person with mobility impairment who may be on level B or C must be use their own discretion to determine if using the elevator is more of a risk than waiting for rescue personnel to reach them. So like in this instance, for people with disabilities, I personally think it's more of a risk because we all know what do you call this? Elevators. An elevator can stop working at any time in case of emergency. So I think the best way is to wait for emergency personnel to come rescue. And if a person with mobility impairment does not utilize a wheelchair but could benefit from assistance during an evacuation, any available office or computer lab chair with rollers may be used. So in this case, they say if the person with disabilities, maybe you can't utilize the chair because we have to move fast. So they say here we can use a roller chair. Roller chairs from the office. Yes, we use roller chairs from the office may be used in emergency situation. And then if a person with mobility impairment is unable to evacuate, staff should notify emergency response personnel immediately. If the person cannot evacuate on his own, like we as the staff have to call emergency personnel to come rescue. And they say this is not to imply that any staff member is prohibited from offering this type of evacuation assistance during an emergency. And they say do not be scared to help someone with disabilities, knowing maybe if a fatality happens, then the risk is going to be on you. But in this case, they say do not be intimidated to assist the person with disabilities. Let's assist people with disabilities in the workplace, guys. Very, very much important. Moving on, guys. Moving on. We have on page 82. Okay, moving on. Now we're on group activity 3, page 82. It says here, identify and explain basic steps in an accident scene during emergency situation. So I'm going to give you guys few steps how to deal with an emergency scene of an accident. The first one, when an accident occurs, the most important objectives are the safety of accident victims and personnel. In this case, guys, in case of an accident, the most important is the victims of the accident and the emergency personnel. because like in this case, if emergency personnel cannot reach our victims of the accident, we are about to encounter fatalities. And here they say it is priority that the accident scene is secured and pre-warning of traffic takes place. Yes, at the place of an accident scene, guys, emergency personnel have to like strictly secure the scene. Nobody is allowed to contaminate the place of an incident scene. And here they say, in some instances, more than one pre-warning vehicle will be required. In this instance, if more than one pre-warning vehicle is required, that means maybe the scene, maybe there are a lot of cars, or not one emergency personnel cannot defuse the whole situation. So there have to be more than one pre-warning vehicle at an emergency scene. And here they say, learning from past accidents can prevent accidents from happening again. In this case, an accident is an accident, but like, if we have the experience and, more especially experience, if you have experience of an accident scene, just maybe then you can be able to to prevent maybe other accidents from happening. And here I'm just going to touch on basic steps in accident scene safety. Size up and assess the scene from all angles. When talking about sizing up and assessing the scene from all angles, it means we have to secure the whole accident scene, size it up, and get to know what was the cause of the accident. What caused the accident? Was it car fault, or was it maybe negligence and stuff like that? So that's why it is very important to assess the scene from all angles. And here, look at flow of traffic. And it is also very important to look at the flow of traffic, guys, because most of the time you find flow of traffic going in different directions and whatnot. So we have to assess the flow of traffic so that we might not encounter more fatalities than they already are at the accident scene. Before you stop traffic, consider the effects this will have on emergency personnel. And like this one is very important. When we stop traffic at an accident scene, we know the place is going to get congested, and we must start to think about how is the emergency people going to reach the scene. And if emergency people don't reach the scene, guys, then we are about to encounter fatality. So it is very much important to take into consideration when you stop traffic at an accident scene. So the emergency personnel can also find their route to the accident scene, so that all the victims of the accident get attended to. They must reach the hospital in time. If people are available, get someone up road and down road. In this case, if there are people at the accident scene, then it is very much important to get someone up road and down road for control of traffic. Think about the positioning of any vehicles involved in the accident and what possible risk they may pose, such as rolling forward, backward. In this case, they say when you are at an accident scene, we must think about how the cars are aligned. Is there a possibility that the car that you are attending to at the accident scene is going to roll back? Is there a possibility that the car might roll forward? So we must take all this into consideration. Turn off all vehicles involved in the crash. There is no way to know the kind of damage the cars have sustained if there is any kind of puncture in the gas tank, the slide spark, the engine that could ignite fire, thus increase the danger poses to passengers, driver, and passers-by. People and vehicles will slip on hazardous materials, spilling such as petrol, oil, brake fluid. Most of the time we find when we are at an accident scene, we are about to step on hazardous chemicals because the cars have been damaged now. They've been involved in a collision, so we have to just look out for such stuff. Establish a few people around to mediate accident scene, to help direct traffic, to point out fluid spills, and to warn people who may want to light up. And another one here says, stabilize the vehicle. Trapped victims are in direct contact with the vehicle structure, so the substructure must be blocked and supported so that there is no other movement during the operation. Like guys, in an accident scene, when victims are still stuck in the vehicle, like let's just do whatever in our power to help victims of an accident scene who are still trapped. Check for injured persons and perform first aid. That is also compulsory. We must also check for injured people in a scene and perform first aid, but first aid must be performed by people who are competent. People who are competent are the only ones who are allowed to perform first aid. Never move an injured person unless you absolutely have to for their own safety. Like in an accident scene, guys, you don't move victims around unless if you have to because of the safety of the victim. Then that's only way you can move a victim around. But in any other accident scene, the only moving around is to get the victims out if the car is trapped. And after performing that, then the victim must be laid down and wait for emergency personnel to arrive and to give help where help is needed. So like guys, this are basically the steps on how to secure an accident scene, the basic steps of scene safety. Or another one here, do not allow more people than necessary into a crime scene. That is very much important. You can't control a situation or an accident scene where there is a lot of people, guys. So people must keep their distance from the scene. Our emergency personnel must help us to barricade the scene so that the scene must not be contaminated. Because they might contaminate the scene if we allow more people than is allowed on the accident scene. Then they're about to contaminate the accident scene, guys. So all of those factors here very much important, guys. See you on our next lesson moving forward now.